Hello again, friends. Welcome back to Quoth Raven, Lewis Bright Raven. I'm your host, Lewis Bright Raven, 29-year veteran writer, illustrator, editor of comics, science fiction, fantasy, horror, and role-playing games. It's been a few weeks. Recently, back in early December, I had a health incident. I had to go to the hospital for high blood pressure. And basically, after that was dealt with, my doctors told me to take the month off, more or less. And I didn't really want to do that. I had tried to do some other things, but it was necessary. So for those of you who are missing me and asking me about where I've been for most of December, I'm still here, I'm still alive. And hopefully we'll be back to regular programming schedule looking forward into the new year. And to that effect, I think I've already told you that, but this is the question, first top question that people were asking me all month long. And again, okay, subjective. I'm alive. I've got blood pressure medicine. It's going to take a while for my body to get adjusted and change different things in my lifestyle. And that may affect how I schedule the show moving forward, but we'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. Again, what happened to the December art sale? What happened was I went to try and put it together, and literally my chest started tightening from the, I guess you could say it was like a psychosomatic situation or whatever. Just too much stress, and I needed to just not do it, unfortunately. Luckily, I was able to do a couple of appearances publicly. I was able to do a theater appearance for Spider-Man No Way Home and do a store appearance, so I did make some money, but we'll get back into a full art vault sale, hopefully probably late January or early February. Now, one of my regulars contacted me and was checking in on me, and we had a conversation about crowdfunding. And this is what he said. I'm so tapped out money-wise right now. I've completely given up any crowdfunding. I've been burned a dozen times already with no replies, damaged goods, no refunds. I'm going back to the basic comics and old back issues. This also goes for most of the CG stuff, meaning Comicscape. I've come to realize the amount of price gouging going on. A $30 graphic novel that should be a floppy, or 2 issues maybe, the most, gouging at its finest. And many of them are too busy streaming and drinking late at night, and their books are months late. And he continues, I just don't understand why it takes them so long. They used to put books out on a regular schedule. I know you would be working for the 8 or 12 or 14-hour days knocking out pages. What does Ethan Van Sciver do? A page a month. Same with Frog on Mail and others. I just want a good comic, no matter who makes it, on a reasonable schedule. There always seems to be some kind of agenda. I'm so tired of it. These guys start with an idea and then maybe a page and a cover, and that's it, and then they live off our hard-earned money for a year. Screw that. Am I wrong to think like this? Well, there's a lot to unpack with that comment from our friend. And the reason I said a regular QTR viewer instead of naming the actual person is because he is a person who frequents some of those other guys' chats. And there's other things, there's a lot to unpack, though. Mark says, yes, he's wrong. And yeah, to some degree he is. And that's what we need to unpack. It's not the same thing when we were working for Marvel or DC on a certain type of schedule versus what we do in crowdfunding. And people also need to realize that a lot of these guys are a lot older than they were when they worked for Marvel and DC. You can kick out books like crazy when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 40s, 50s, and 60s, like a lot of these guys are, after spending 25, 35 years in the business, and we've basically, burned out ourselves working in the mainstream for years. Yes, there is a level of relaxation, I guess you could say, but there's also a learning curve. We're not just doing the production of the comic book work. We're learning the business of comics. And that's a lot more complicated than just, spending time at the drawing board. That having been said, I understand some of where this gentleman's coming from. There are people, whether they're comic skate guys or just other people in general, who spend a lot of time seemingly online talking trash about the industry, talking and just, goofing off seemingly. And you wonder, well, when are you doing your books? When's the book coming out? So I understand where he's coming from on that perspective, because it does look like that on the surface. That's why I prefer people like Gary Shipman or Aaron Lopresti, who are drawing their actual pages to their comics on their YouTube channels. You can actually see them working on the book. You know that they're producing work. And they're still talking about product. They're still talking about the industry, but you actually see them working on the product. Another thing is, though, and this is something that I don't think everybody realizes, is that some of these people, Ethan being one of them, Malin Fragus and these other guys, they have enough subscribers to their YouTube channels that they're getting people paying them for monetization on their channels. And they're earning enough money on the monetization, they're actually earning more money on that than they are on the books. And so it's hard for them to say, well, I'm not going to do my YouTube channel today for 2 or 3 hours, when they're going to earn $500 to $3,000 to do that, for that, from the fans that are throwing money at them, rather than go draw off camera somewhere. And that's, whether you want to call that a false enablement or, something that just needs to be more balanced. I think that is a contributing factor as well. But I think a lot of it just is that they don't schedule the books the same because they didn't really know the business of scheduling comics, and they're learning. So give them, I understand if a book's, multiple months late or multiple years late, and there are some of those, not necessarily from those guys that have been cited in the gentleman's conversation, but I've seen people like that in the crowdfunding arena. But there's also other situations where, I'll give you a good example. The Paraponauts trade paperback hasn't come out yet, That's because they had printer issues and they had to go back and go to a third printing of the book because the first book was wrong. The second book had bad paper and the glue on the binding wasn't good enough and it fell apart. So now they're waiting for the printer to get around to the third printing. Well, that's not Todd DeZago or not P. Craig Russell. Craig Rousseau. It's not their fault. It's a printer development issue. So little things like that. As long as there's communications going on, I think it's rather a case by case basis rather than an issue of just CG or just whatever. So there's that. There's also just the notion that, and I've said this before, when we do these books through crowdfunding, and there's going to be a huge dynamic shift in crowdfunding in 2022, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I think there's going to be anyway. We're going to see whether they're going to be doing more books rather than comics, more trades moving forward, and because of the shift from Kickstarters going over to the blockchain Bitcoin type platform. I don't know exactly if that means everybody's going to go over to Indiegogo. I've seen other people looking around for other platforms for crowdfunding. So I think there's going to be a lot of dynamic changes there. But so there's a lot to be considered on that. And I think people, while it's frustrating to wait on books that, maybe they should be soliciting after they're mostly done instead of, hoping to get backed and then taking months on end to do it. But, it is what it is. And you should know what you're getting into when you buy. So I don't know. I understand where he's coming from. I understand the frustration. I feel it too for a couple of people. But as long as we eventually get the books and they're in decent shape, or respectable shape of where they're supposed to be sent, and not damaged, But we'll see. And Mark Anderson says, I don't think they'll go to Indiegogo if they're anti-Kickstarter because of blockchain. Because confiscate to them seems to be a greater transgression. But the thing is, Indiegogo isn't, this is the thing. Indiegogo and Kickstarter are platforms, and whether it's Comicsgate or this click group or that click group or whatever, you really shouldn't be judging on any of them based on that. You should be judging on individual product and whether or not you believe in that product enough to back it. Now, if an individual person or an individual product doesn't appeal to you because of how they behave as a Comicsgate member or whatever, that's totally cool. I understand that, but I don't know. I think it's kind of silly that there's this whole analogy that all of Indiegogo is Comicsgate, because they're not. It's like maybe 10% of Indiegogo is Comicsgate. Yeah. If you're friends with a person they don't like, yeah. Well, that's fine. Again, it's weird. Like I say, some of those guys that were named, I don't support EVS. I don't. I don't like the way he presents himself online. I'm not going to say I don't care for his art style, but there's nothing technically inherently wrong with it. It's just not my thing. I've had to ink him before, and there's things in his style that I don't care for. But, the truth is, if he just didn't trash talk the mainstream and just did his books and came out with his books on a regular basis, I probably wouldn't have an issue with him at all. It's just another guy on the market to me. And that's kind of the way I feel about a lot of these guys. and it's that sort of a situation. Again, yeah, exactly. There's no reason to like either extreme where you're for or against or whatever. I think just judge based on the content, and if you see something about the individual's behavior you don't like, for you personally, not what you heard he did or she did, but something you actually witnessed or you saw or something that you're not cool with, yeah, sure, don't support them. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Well, hold on. Mark says, I like diversity and inclusion, and I don't own Marvel or DC or care. At the same time, I hate the teardown culture of breakers rather than makers. Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Mark. As I've said before, I don't think it's really about fulfilling a quota of whatever minority or anything like that. I just think it's a matter of who gets along with whom and who's buddy system with whom. If you replace Joe Quesada and Tom Brevoort and C.B. Cebulski with a completely different set of editorial management at Marvel, you're going to get a completely different roster of talent. Same thing at DC. If Jim Lee goes, a whole bunch of people go with him. It's just the way it is. And as it's just, but whether that's good or bad, that's up for debate, because it just depends on who gets in replacing them, and how well they're marketed and how well they're received by the audience. But yeah, the teardown culture, though, I think a lot of it is just that characters, but not yeah. Okay, well, characters too. But a lot of those characters are built on identity politics now. People want Spider-Man, but which Spider-Man do they want? Do they want Peter Parker? Do they want Miles Morales? Do they want Ben Reilly? Do they want Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland or whatever? We want it all. Thing is, we really don't want it all. They think they do, and when it's done well, like with the Spider-Man movie that just came out, yeah, it's great, but it's not done like that all the time. So anyway, speaking of the Spider-Man movie, did I see it? What did I think of it? I enjoyed it for the most part. There were a few story glitches, minor things that I don't want to spoil, because I know not everyone's seen it yet. Just a few things that I thought were, should that person still be alive, type thing. I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to spoil it, but just little things like that. But overall, it was an enjoyable film. Better than I thought it was going to be. I was not a huge fan of really any of the Spider-Man films, particularly. I mean, they're okay. Nothing or any of them are horrible by any means. I just was never a huge proponent of the films, and this one actually, was enjoyable for what it was. And whereas other previous ones, I guess because I knew the stories going in and what was going to happen and why, I was just, I won't say I was bored, but I wasn't as interested in them in the previous movies as much as I was in this one. This one was a little more engaging. Next question. Are there movies you want to see in the theater but you aren't going to see because of the COVID or Omicron variant or other reasons? Yeah, there's all kinds of them. I kind of want to see Matrix Resurrections. I kind of want to see. Oh shoot, um, just a bunch of them really. Um, Let me let a quick look here. Encanto was another one. Um, that I haven't seen that I kind of want to see. Um, Nightmare Alley, I want to see. Um, Mother Android was another one I wanted to see. I sort of wanted to see Ghostbusters Afterlife, but I haven't. Again, just a lot of it isn't because of um, the COVID situation. It's more or less because I don't like to go to the movie theater by myself, and my other friends are busy, or they don't want to go because of COVID. So, well, I don't go by myself, so I just don't go. Eventually, I'll see these films, probably on DVD or something. But hopefully, I won't have a sudden heart attack or something, pass away and miss it. But yeah, unfortunately, that's always a possibility. But hopefully not. Eric from South Carolina asks, did you see the comments made by Eric Larson to Jonathan Glapian about inkers and page rates? What are your thoughts about what publishers are paying creators today, and how is that affecting the type and level of quality in our comics products? Ooh, another one that you gotta open up a can of worms here. Different titles have different budgets, and a lot of what's being paid today is not even a fraction of what used to get paid. When I started working as an inker in '92, I was getting paid $105 a page from Marvel, and I have not personally been offered that low a low amount. I haven't been offered anything, but I know other inkers who have been offered as low as $25 to $35 a page from Marvel. And I'm thinking, if you can't afford to pay what you paid me 30 years ago, you haven't got any business hiring anybody. That's just the way I feel about it. But I also understand that $25 to $35 page rate, the reason it's that rate is because of the globalization of the marketplace for creators. That $25 to $35 page rate, USD, if I go hire a guy in the Philippines, or I go hire a guy in Korea, or I go hire a guy in Brazil, the dollar conversion rate, that $25, $35 page rate USD turns out to be $750 in Korean money per page. They can make a good living on that. So yeah, they hire the guy from Korea instead of the guy from America, and that does not help our economy at all and the Americans. But that's what's going on, and that's kind of where you see a lot of artists that are not living in America, or they do things differently that way than we didn't have as much of in previous decades. We still had South American artists, we still had Filipino artists back in the 70s and 80s and stuff, but it was a lot different because for one thing, you didn't have internet, you didn't have the immediacy of transferring digital files back and forth. You had to wait weeks as pages were shipped overseas back and forth. And a lot of the artwork was done differently back then. You'd have an American artist like John Buscema do breakdowns of the storyboards or the comic book pages, and then you'd have the Filipino artist do the finished work, which is a different thing than inking in and of itself. And so they would get paid a lot more for finishing, whereas Buscema would do more pages in terms of physically producing pages so it looked like John was doing 3-4 books. He was actually doing breakdowns as opposed to full rendered pencils. Today, a lot of these guys are wanting, the publishers want you to do everything at once, and pay less for it. And that's what Jonathan was getting at. And then Larson kind of made what I felt was a stupid comment, saying just work and do more pages. You can say that when you are 20 something. When you're in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, and you've got vision problems and back problems and carpal tunnel syndrome in your wrists and other stuff from working all these years, that's not an option. So there does need to be new considerations, I think, and whether or not we're going to market and who we're going to market. And I'll be talking more about that more extensively in 2022. I'm going to try and get some guests to discuss this topic at a more broader scope. So we'll get back to that hopefully in a couple weeks. When are you going to sell your art online again to make up for the missed holiday sale? Again, probably late January, early to February, probably. Let's see what else. Before you disappeared for a month, you were talking about reviewing the movie Tolkien starring Nicholas Hoult. Are you ever going to get around to doing that? Yes. That was supposed to be reviewed on December 4th. Around December 3rd is when I had to go to the hospital. I'm waiting for one of our friends, John Norris, to get around to viewing it. We're going to do it together and talk about that movie together. And then when we talk about that, when he's ready, we'll schedule it. But that'll probably be early January, hopefully. Depends on what John's schedule is like. Apologies for making you wait, Mike. Have you stopped doing the channel? No, I haven't stopped. I needed a break. That's all. Did you hear of the passing of artist Ryan Bodenheim this week? Did anybody mention the cause of death? I did not see a mention of cause of death. I did see the articles and mention of his passing. Very tragic. 44 years old, much before his time. I don't know, maybe he had COVID symptoms, and I don't know what it was. Nobody, I don't know. But I often look at situations like this, or I look at situations like the George Perez situation, where he's terminally ill with cancer now, and he's just biding his time basically. I think if we didn't push the artists as hard as we do in the system that we do, I think a lot of these guys would be a lot healthier and would still be with us, or wouldn't be in a situation where they're at risk to the extent that they are. Again, that's kind of the nature of the beast, and it's a fair question as to whether or not we need to change how we do things to make things more, I don't want to say health conscious, so much as just not as excessive, I guess you could say, as what the market can be at times. There's a lot of excessive pressure, both external and internal, for the average creator that most of the fandom really doesn't understand, because it's not easy to explain it. It's not just about deadlines. It's about linking your self-value and your self-worth to your artwork or your writing. And if your work isn't being successful enough, that can lead to depression, that can lead to other problems that can in turn affect your art or your work. And it's a vicious cycle. There's other emotional baggage and psychological issues with how people get treated back and forth in the industry as well. So, it's not all fun and games. It's not all. Everybody's not singing "Kumbaya," unfortunately. So, in Ryan's case, I wish I knew what caused it. I just know it was much too soon, and much sympathies to his family and his loved ones. What do you think about Kickstarter's plans through to the blockchain system? Is it going to damage crowdfunding for comics and other projects? Again, we talked about that a little bit. We'll go into it in a more extensive clip at a later date. I think it's going to affect some of it, but I think more often than not, it's just going to be more people are going to go to other platforms and give us a more variety of platforms to buy product from and through. And I think that's a good thing on one level, but I think it's also going to make it a little more difficult for consumers, because you're going to want to constantly be hunting all over the place for whatever you want. We're used to having the one shop and get everything in one place, and that's just not what the comic market is anymore. Between the diamond market, the crowdfunding market, the print-on-demand market, web comics, whether that's Tapas, Comixology, Webtoons, what have you, other platforms besides Indigo and Kickstarter. I don't even know all the different platforms. We've got Patreon, where you can back us on projects. There's all kinds of ways to do it. So I really don't. It'll be interesting to see how much of a change it'll be, but I don't know. I just think it's going to broaden the market value, I think, in the end, as people look for other venues to market and sell their books through. So that's our questions for this time. If you have a question for me, please email quoththeravennlbr72@gmail.com, subject QTR Q&A, and I'll do my best to answer your question on air. And if I can't answer it on air for some reason, it might be a little bit too personal matter, or it might be a little bit too risque of a topic, I'll do my best to answer it privately and via email. Okay. That takes care of that. So, what all do we have? Well, hold on a second. There we go. Mm-hmm. All right. People have been asking me, since I haven't been on for a month, what have I got for reading? Well, I know you can see it maybe a little bit off to my right, I guess. My left, your right. But I got a whole stack of books here. Stuff I got over the last 6 weeks that I haven't had a chance to read any of it yet. But this is basically my Christmas haul. The Captain America shirt was for Christmas. We got Shutter Magazine from Warrant, a Warrant magazine. This is a horror anthology magazine in the tradition of the classic Warren stuff from the 70s. And I got the first 2 issues of that. And ironically, I ordered this because Pop Culture Avenger, one of our regular reviewers, mentioned it to me. And I got Shutter number 2 a month ago. I got Shutter number 1 yesterday. That's how screwed up Diamond's distribution is right now. Go figure that one. But so there's stuff I have to get read. This week I got Mega number 1 from Stonebot Productions, I think is what it is. But that looks like a cool Godzilla type monster book. I got the Gary Shipman Sketchbook Conundrum book. For those of you who haven't known about this, I'm in it. There's my stuff on the left and his inked version of my art on the right. And that's of his character Titan, the Super Mouse. And there's a lot of other cool stuff in here as well. Just, generally cool artwork of Gary's. As you can see, different characters and art styles. And a lot of this stuff Gary actually drew on his YouTube channel over the last year. So, it's all his art. So it's kind of cool. So that was a cool book I got. And all of this stuff is going to get reviewed in January. Dark Horse's Daisy, number 1 and 2. That's by Joanna LaFuente, Anita Vu, and Jim Campbell. I'm not exactly sure what all it's about. I've forgotten what the premise is, unfortunately. Other than Daisy's like a super tall, light. I don't know, maybe a throwback to a previous era of humanity or something. We got Broken Land number 4. I think you guys might remember Broken Land by Drew Morrison. This is the final issue of the run. And we interviewed him and talked about this back in October or November. And I got that book. Let's see. We got Green Lantern number 9. Thing number 2 from Marvel. This is the only Marvel book I'm getting right now, is The Thing, because it's written by Walter Mosley. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes for the whole series. First issue was pretty well done. Haven't had a chance to look at the second issue yet. Batman, The Adventures Continue. This is issue number 7. Ginseng Roots by Craig Thompson. This is issue number 9. And of course, you've all seen me talk about this multiple occasions on the show on that particular series. We got Jimmy Jones's The Baboon, Skull of a King from his Bow Tie Press. One shot. We have Grim Space by Martin and Scalise. Sorry about the reflection from the TV screen or computer screen there. A lot of these are books that I got through Kickstarter or Indiegogo. We got Deep Beyond from Image, issues number 10 and 11. I think there's going to be one more issue for the rest of the series, and then it's done. So I'm probably going to wait until issue 12 comes out and then just reread the whole thing in one whole sitting, I think. Just because I got so much other stuff to read. We have Heavy from Ben Perkins. This is another Kickstarter book. A little bit different cut format. It's sideways scroll. And we'll be reviewing that. This is, I look forward to reading this one. We have Campisi, the Dragon Incident, number 4 from Aftershock by James Patrick and Marco Riccotti. I think there might be one more issue of this as well. Forthcoming. Images King of Spies by Mark Millar and Matteo Scalera. And I'll check that out and see what I think of that. I don't know if I'll stick with it or not after the first issue or not. We got Maze Book number 4, and number 5 is at the store. I forgot to pick it up on Wednesday for some reason. But that's the Jeff Lemire book from Dark Horse. Neil Gaiman, P. Craig Russell, and Friends Norse Mythology from Dark Horse. This is the number 6 of this particular story arc. And then they'll do another one, starting another one next catalog here. We got first 3 issues of Biff Stone Monster Hunter for hire. Yeah, quite the interesting situation there. This is from Gallant Comics, also Kablam Publishing. It's written by oh shoot, I can't think of his name. I can think of the other one's name, but not his name. Isn't that nice? Me, I apologize. But I haven't had a chance to read these, but I got these about 2-3 weeks ago, I think. We have Carriers number 1 from Red 5 Comics. I think you can kind of tell why I picked this one up. If you can't tell, that's a big giant raven on the cover. So I figured I'd get that just for giggles. Of course, we have the Usagi Yojimbo books. The Dragon Bellows Conspiracy number 6 and the regular edition number 24. Beyond the Breach number 5 from Aftershock. Oh. There we go. Paleocene by Mike Kesey. I got the first 3 issues of this. This is something that, again, I believe it's through Kickstarter. So I haven't had a chance to read those. I just got these like 2 days ago in the mail. So there's some interesting things here. A little business card from him with his Twitter and Facebook information. And then the question, if we evolved from apes, why are there still apes? And then kind of a scale here of human evolution from the apes to humans. that may or may not make sense. I don't know. It's just interesting. I can't read the gray lettering there. It's too light for me, and too small. So I'm sorry, I can't tell you what that says, but it'll be interesting to see um, what those books are like. But I often like the prehistoric animal type comics, so this interested me. We also have Mutiny Magazine, which is an anthology book of both mainstream and independent comics. This is issue number 1. And this is the alternate covered by Gene Ha. Issue number 2, I think, is being solicited in the new previews catalog. We got The Essential Guide to Comic Book Lettering by Nate Picos. For those of you who don't know, Nate is one of the big guys in comic book lettering for the last 20 years, particularly for computer comic lettering. There's also a forward by Tom Wojciechowski, one of the veteran letterers of yore. And there's a lot of stuff in here that you can learn, technical stuff for lettering and story layout and stuff like that I think is pretty interesting. Just different base information, stuff about comic books and printing and stuff in here in the book that I think are really well done. And so I'm looking forward to reading through all of this and seeing what I don't know, because I don't know everything. Far from it. And knowing how accomplished Nate is as a letterer, I'm sure there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to come across that I didn't know about lettering. So I look forward to reading that. We also got After the Rain. This is an adaptation of a story by Nnedi Okorafor, written by John Jennings and illustrated by David Brom. And I'm looking forward to reading this. And that is pretty much all the books that I got. There's a few more, but that's the majority of them, which is quite a bit when you think about it. But I also got a lot of stuff. Since I don't just do comic reviews on this channel, I figured I needed to get some movies to review for the show as well. So we got the Aeon Flux, Peter Chung, creator, deluxe edition, director's cut DVD. Aeon Flux was a very popular animated series on MTV in the early 90s. And I'm looking forward to seeing that, because I always tried to follow it on MTV, but it was always sporadic, and it didn't make any sense to me how it was being done. So hopefully when I watch this, I will finally be able to make sense of what the hell this is supposed to be about. We'll find out. We have The Dawn Seeker. This is just one of those I don't want to call them cheap, because they're not cheap, but low budget DVD, direct-to-DVD movies that are very popular at Walmart and Target these days. I just look forward to, it looks like an interesting science fiction story, and we'll see where it goes. Broken Swords, The Last in Line. This is a fantasy, low-budget fantasy thing from Echo Bridge Acquisition Group. Again, I'm not really sure what all they're going to be, and we'll see what all these books are, all these films are. Got a horror one called House of Shadows. Again, these are not rated. These are not theatrical releases. These are just direct-to-DVD films. Thank you, Comics. Portals. I don't know why this has got. Oh, okay, I see why. This is kind of like a bunch of the like the Black Doors from the Asimov's. Oh shoot, I can't. Asimov's 2001, 2020, 2061 type stuff, Foundation trilogies and stuff like that. It reminded me of that, and I thought I'd go ahead and check that out. This is an Alan Moore film called The Show. It's written by Alan Moore and directed by Mitch Jenkins. And I don't know what it's about particularly. I guess it's kind of a the dark fantasy type stuff that should be interesting to try out and stuff. We'll see what Moore does when he's not worrying about what Marvel or DC are doing to his characters or his properties. We also got Ghost in the Shell, standalone complex, and also the second season of standalone complex. So quite a bit of stuff for me to watch and review in the weeks forthcoming. So that's quite a bit of it all, considering I really hadn't planned on spending all that much money this year, but I did. So that was my Christmas haul. And I think I got a few other items, like I got some jeans, and I got like a pack of erasers. I think I'm set for erasers now for the rest of my life. I don't think I'll go through the 14 high polymer erasers not when I have such erasers like this one right here that I've had since college. And I'm 50 in 3 months. I don't think so. So I think those will probably last me a while. I got some markers over here as well. So, some other art supplies as well. These are from Azure. Professional artist markers. They seem to be doing pretty well for what I wanted them for. So I'm not complaining about them. But there's a lot of stuff there that I got. So that takes care of the Christmas swag. I hope other people got some cool stuff. Let me know what you got. In the meantime, people have been asking me what did I think was the best stuff of the year. Well, I'll go ahead and give my top 10 series in alphabetical order, not necessarily in the order I think they're as in 10 to 1 or anything. But the stuff that I found most enjoyable throughout the year, I think. We'll go with Batman The Adventures Continue Season 2 from DC Comics. The miniseries Beasts of Burden Occupied Territory from Dark Horse by Evan Dorkin and Sarah Dyer and I can't think of his name. I apologize for the art. Benjamin Dewey. There we go. Then there's Bermuda from IDW by John Lehman and Nick Bradshaw. The aforementioned Broken Land by Drew Morrison. The Canto series from IDW by David M. Booher and Friends. This is the 4th issue of the 3rd storyline, but I think there was like 3 different Canto series and one-shots throughout 2021, if I remember correctly. We have Eve from Boom. That was a 5-issue series by Victor Laval, Joe Mi Young, and Brittany Peer. We had Jeremy Massey's Holler from It's Alive. That's the independent comic about the teenage rock band in West Virginia, high school kids. We have Impossible Jones from Panic Button Press and Scout Comics. That is the Carl Kiesel, David Hahn book that was originally funded through Kickstarter and then is being reprinted through Scout Comics recently. They've had like 2 issues out through Scout this year so far. This also includes the Impossible Jones Holidays one-shot that features the Detective Bright Raven character. I don't know if you remember when Carl and I was here as a guest and we reviewed that book, but that was a nice nod and tip to the hat to me. I appreciate that. Shadecraft from Image Comics, from Joe Henderson and I think it's Lee Garbett, if I remember correctly. And of course, anything with Usagi Yojimbo from IDW, all series, whether it's the regular ongoing series or the reprint miniseries. Those are our top 10 comics for 2021. Our top 10 graphic novels are Beast Hunting Battle Badgers Volume 1 from Steve Sims, collecting the first 6 issues of the miniseries. We had Steve as a guest on the show talking about that project back in, I believe it was October or November. Black Star, this is an original graphic novel by Eric Anthony Glover and Ariel Hovalanos. If I pronounced that correctly. Evermore Falls, original graphic novel by Carl Slominski. Gristle, OGN by Lily Blakely. Icyanite by Julia Vicente. Barry Wintersmith's Monsters hardcover from Fantagraphics. Gristle and Icyanite both came from Shortbox UK. Watson Future Volume 3, Parliament of Magpies by Kian Yin, Dan Mora, and Tamara Bonvillain at Boom Studios. James Tinian, Werther de la Dera, and Miguel Muertos, Something is Killing the Children, Volume 3, also from Boom. Witch for Hire by Ted Nafe. This is, I think it's Abrams Books that published this, if I remember correctly. That was a top draw. And again, you can go back in the archives of the 2021 season and find the interview I did with Ted about Witch for Hire and other books of his. And lastly, Wallach, The Great Journey by Ana Morales and Emilio Ruiz. And the reason that's the last and not in alphabetical order is because of the size of the cover. I figured it would just be easier to do it on its own. It's a different cut format. And I forget who published it. I think it was Magnetic Press, if I remember correctly. But those are my top graphic novels and trade paperbacks of 2021 that I've read. Okay. That is pretty much what we got for the year. Now, what's going to happen in 2022? Well, as I said at the beginning of the show, I had to take time off for health reasons, and for that reason, I'm not going to be producing quite as much content, daily basis as I did this past year. There will be more live draw stuff going on, and there will be more review stuff, but it'll be done not so much on a regular schedule programming as much as when I get around to doing something and just putting it in and reviewing product. That way I'm not stressing myself out to try and just keep putting content out. And I can just kind of relax and just do something that's a little more, hopefully a little more friendly to the audience, and hopefully a little more engaging in that regard. But we'll also be talking about bringing in more guests to talk about some of those topics that we discussed a little bit earlier, like, what's going on with the page rates, what's going on with what's going to happen with Kickstarter going over to blockchain, other things like that. We'll discuss those topics with more guests on the show and see what people think about it from that front, I think. And I'm hoping to get a little more editors and a little more creators on the show in roundtable discussions in 2022 in that regard. As for my own products and any store appearances or anything, someone just asked me privately, am I going to be at a vault sale next weekend? The answer is I don't know. I haven't spoken to the guy who runs that event locally here in Columbia. If he wants me there and it's not like a fortune to get a table or space there, then maybe I'll be there, maybe I won't. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm not scheduled to be there. But I'm going to try and start doing things where you guys are going to start seeing me doing actual story pages for my own books again. And you're going to start seeing the products, production products, rather than just commissioned sketches and stuff like that on the line cross. So that's the plan for 2022, folks. So that's pretty much all for now, I think. I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed my video or you think others might, please hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get support from my channel, to give support to my channel, and get content from my channel. As always, I thank you for watching and for your support. You can reach me on Facebook at Brightраven, Twitter at LewisBrightRave2. You can see my artwork at deviantart.com/BrightRaven. You've been watching Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube. If you have questions, email me at quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com. And if I don't get back to you within a day or two, try lewisbrightraven@yahoo.com. But the Gmail one is the best one to reach me at. We'll see you all next time. Have a great, happy New Year's Eve and New Year, and we'll see you in 2022.